to be outspoken about how confident you are. It's meant to be empowering and all that.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm that kind of person, but I think I'm quietly confident and I'm quietly competitive. I don't like to make out I'm super competitive, but I know internally I'm always wanting to be the best. CrossFit throw in skills that you've never seen before, and that's really good for anybody at any age, like to have a kind of a goal or something new that they want to learn or achieve, and then to kind of work through the process of getting it. For me to get the success that I have had, I had to also prioritise myself. Like, obviously my kids will always be my number one priority. Like, I don't think you necessarily have to give up as you get older, give up your dreams and your passion and who you are.
Ali, thanks very much for joining us today on the podcast. Fittest woman on the planet 2022. Is that fair to say?
For my age.
For your age. So today we're joined with Ali Crawford, who's aged 48 and last...
No, 47,
47?
For goodness sake.
47, cut that out. Last year she won the CrossFit Games in 2022. And Ali will tell us a bit more about that, but for people that are unsure about CrossFit or what the CrossFit Games is, that is the CrossFit Games that made the Netflix documentary series. It's watched by tens of millions of people throughout the year. It's the best of the best. And in your age category, which was 45 and plus, you were a silver medalist in 2021 and you took first place in 2022. Yep. Amazing. For people that don't know what CrossFit is, and a lot of people still don't know, even though it's getting bigger and bigger, thanks to people like yourself in this country, tell us a bit about CrossFit, what it is and what it means.
So I think you hit the nail on the head. I think definitely the Netflix docos helped raise the profile a lot with people that didn't know what it was. But essentially, CrossFit is, well, it can be competitive functional fitness, of which there's lots and lots of that about now. So I feel as though, like, certainly in the last kind of 3 to 5 years, the whole competitive functional fitness scene has really taken off. But prior to that, it wasn't so much. So any kind of opportunity to compete in fitness, if you like, and overall fitness was through CrossFit. So I think obviously it's been around in America for years and years, but it was fairly more recent in the UK, and I think in Scotland particularly, like, I think the kind of longest running boxes have only been open for like maybe kind of 13 odd years, I think. So it's basically a methodology of training, and it initially, for me and for most people, it didn't start as a competitive thing or something that I wanted to take super serious and kind of try and get as far as I could. For me, initially, it was just a case of I really enjoyed the style of training. Always trained, always liked to do like a bit of running, a bit of weightlifting, and like I used to like enjoy a lot of classes. I used to also teach classes, just always really been into fitness. And I suppose like a lot of people who are into fitness, when CrossFit came around, for me, the opportunity to learn new skills and kind of almost like take part in classes which were more packaged as like overall, like hitting all different types of fitness. Like,
it's so multidisciplined, isn't it? Because you've got, like you touched on, your running, you've got swimming, you've got strongman elements as well, you've got Olympic lifting, powerlifting.
It's basically absolutely everything.
And when the CrossFit Games are designed, there's basically nothing that can be ruled out as far as what you can do.
Like when I've competed at the CrossFit Games a couple of times, I've actually done movements that I have never done before. Really?
Ever. Not even had a chance to train for them? Not had a chance
to train for them. And to be perfectly honest, last year in 2022, there was one of the events that had, like parallel bars from gymnastics, and it was like transverse. So you had to basically come up and then shuffle it basically across the parallel bars, and then come down and do it again. But they didn't even have a set of parallel bars in the warm-up area. So you were basically going out to do a movement within a workout that you had absolutely no idea how to do because you'd never even tried it out. So it is a bit like they say, train for the unknown.
Definitely.
And so, like, nothing's off limits. Like,
and I suppose that's where it gets its tag from, and some people disagree, and I'm sure you'll tell me stories where you've maybe had a wee bit of trolling or controversial statements about the fittest on earth, and people will be stronger than you in certain elements, people will be faster than you in certain elements, in different sports, obviously, in different competitions, but bringing that in a full jack of all trades, if you like, it's a pretty accurate tag. I got loads of trolling after winning the games in 2022, because obviously
like social media platforms and different accounts got wind of the fact that I had won, and obviously CrossFit have coined the phrase like fittest on earth, like my medal says that, for example. And I can kind of see why, but yeah, like what you say, it's true, like, and it's not even a case of you have to be able to do everything within the one workout. It's like you're testing, you can test each different element of fitness over a different workouts. So I suppose when I decided to start taking CrossFit more seriously, I realised like I was always like had quite a good engine. That was what I was known for, like decent like fitness levels, but I wasn't particularly like, I was strong but for reps, but in terms of my raw strength wasn't great. I wasn't great at gymnastics, high volume gymnastics, and I quickly realised that there's no point in being an expert, or like there's no point coming first in one event if you're going to come like last in two other events. It's better to be like kind of middle of the pack and all type thing. So like for me, when I started taking it seriously, as I say, it did take me a couple of months when I started my training, but then I quickly realised I'm like, I can't be competitive here unless I try and get rid of the weaknesses. And at my age, I'm always going to have weaknesses. If you're learning something in your early 40s, you're never going to be the best at it. But I did try and make sure that my weaknesses weren't going to trip me up as much. And I think that's when my kind of competitive success started to come in.
When you addressed them. So I want to rewind a bit and find out kind of more about you as a person and what makes you tick, and then we'll take it up into your recent competitions and your sporting experience before that. So I'm intrigued, where do you get this like innate competitiveness, like very, very successful athlete? Where does it stem from? Is it from family? Is it from trauma? Is it from, or are you just this woman that has decided that she's going to take on and beat the world with no real influence from other people?
I think that I come from quite a sporty family. Like my dad was a professional footballer. My mum wasn't sporty at all. I think she was your classic wag, to be honest. But my sister's really sporty, and even like my aunts and my like stuff are quite sporty. And I think sport was always like a big part of my life as a child, but I don't think I ever found the sport that I truly excelled in, like as much. I did lots of sports, like athletics, gymnastics, I did a bit of dancing, cheerleading, all that kind of thing, mostly the kind of stereotypical girly ones, but I don't think I found, like, I enjoyed them all, but like I stuck to the gymnastics, and I don't think naturally that was my sport. Like
just CrossFit didn't exist back then.
Exactly. And I think that a lot of people, when it comes to sports, I think a lot of people don't find their thing. Do you know what I mean? It's like totally. You kind of fall into things that like maybe your parents sign you up for when you're younger, and then you have friends and you just keep going. Because I do remember when I got to high school, and I remember thinking at the time I was really good at athletics, like and it was like the pentathlon it was at the time, because I was always a bit of an all rounder, and I remember my PE teacher like asking me to go to an athletics club, and I remember them speaking to my parents saying that like I was showing like quite talent in athletics, and I even remember them put me into like the Scottish schools bloody athletics event, and I showed up with all these girls that were like into like athletics with their spikes and their blocks, and I literally had like,
you were just there because you were told to go.
Box on, so I kind of always did it, but I wish now that like maybe my parents had kind of pushed, like said like let's do it, whereas I was like, no, I like my gymnastics, I like my friends at gymnastics, so I kind of stuck with it. But with hindsight and obviously like the wisdom that comes with age, I realise now that probably that would have been more my bag, and I maybe would have had more success at a younger age. Always been really competitive, like.
And is that maybe through having a family that has got people that have excelled in various different sports, and you can see them as competition?
I do think the competitive spirit is just something you've either got or you haven't. Like, I think, especially in the modern world of social media, people proclaim to have all this confidence, and like to be like outspoken about how confident you are. It's meant to be empowering and all that. I don't think I'm that kind of person, but I think I'm quietly confident, and I'm quietly competitive. I don't like to make out I'm super competitive, but like I know internally I'm like I'm always wanting to be the best, and I don't think that's just like in sports. I think that's just in a lot of things that I do.
I think that intrinsic pressure, and I think there's studies out there that show that if you set like what they would term as intrinsic goals or pressure, as in you put the pressure on yourself and you're not kind of seeking acceptance or approval or attention from external sources or factors, then you're far more likely to succeed.
Is that right?
Definitely, because you're doing it for your own reasons, you're doing it for yourself. If you're trying to please someone else or a society or social media, then it's only so much time you can an effort you can put into that. Do you know what I mean? Before the likes and the appreciation and all that soon diminishes.
Yeah. I find that really interesting, because I would say that that's me down to a T.
Definitely.
Like anything that I do for me. I don't know, that probably makes me sound quite selfish.
No, not at all.
And I know that like because I've spoken to people that are like, you need to say your goals out loud, put them out there and all that, and I'm like, no. I am the complete opposite for that. Like, I internalise everything. Like, I never even spoke to my husband about what like my ambition was. Like when I was going to the games the first time I went to the games was in 2018, and at that stage it was as a master it was the 40 to 44 category. And I was actually quite surprised to have even qualified. So I kind of went over that year not really believing in myself and feeling a bit like a fish out of water, and having absolutely zero ambition to like podium or anything like that. Obviously I wanted to do the best I could. And I had quite a good start to that competition. And then at that stage I still felt as though I had a few weaknesses. And I had a couple of bad events, and then it was almost like I wasn't even truly competing. I was just like, I was doing the workouts, but I didn't put any pressure on myself. I was just like, well, I'm out of the running now. And I kind of had quite a negative mindset probably. And then when I decided in 2022, I moved into the next stage category up, and I kind of felt, well, I'm going to be one of the younger ones in the category here. And just my training had been going really well. And I decided I was going to try and get to the games, but in my head I was like, I think I can podium this year, and that was my goal. But at no point would I ever at that stage have said that out loud to anyone, because I
didn't want that added pressure.
Didn't want that added pressure. I also didn't want like, I think I'm a bit of a people pleaser, so I feel as though if I was to say to you, I'm going to go and try and win it this year, and I didn't, as much as I would be disappointed in myself, I would feel as though I'd let down other people as well. I get
that as well. I think there's like there is a lot to be said for like accountability, but if you can't be accountable to yourself, then you're not going to be accountable to anyone else. And I think that you get a lot of social media pages and accounts where they're putting on fitness for their own accountability or whatever else. And it's all short-lived until you've made that decision that you're actually going to do something for yourself. You're never going to succeed in it, and especially to your level, because the sacrifices you would have had to make, both in terms of career and work and whatever else, you really need to become obsessed with your craft, because at the end of the day, your competition is going to be doing that. And if you want to better it, then you need to be more committed, you need to work harder. And I think that's only possible if you've made that deal with yourself, not your Instagram or Facebook page. Do you know?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Yeah, but I'm interested about, because I do think I'll never change. Like, don't get me wrong, I still post some stuff on like my Instagram and stuff like that.
As does everybody.
But I do think, like you say, there's a lot of people at the moment that talk the talk and don't walk the walk, and it's actually quite hard. Like, particularly for like, obviously I'm a bit older. Like, if I'd found CrossFit when I was younger, I am obsessed with it, and it is like a proper lifestyle thing. But that's one, because it's really fun, and people, like, you see really big progress really quickly, and I think two, because it's a great opportunity to complete for like self-development. So like, you're always like kind of trying to improve on lifts, or like we said earlier, like CrossFit throw in skills that you've never seen before. So that, like that, and that's really good. And for anybody at any age, like to have a kind of a goal or something new that they want to learn or achieve, and then to kind of work through the process of getting it, then that's leaves you feeling really positive.
Oh, definitely, and it's constantly evolving. I mean, unless you get bored with exercise in general, you're very unlikely to get bored with CrossFit, because there's just so many, there's so many different variants.
And the thing about it though is it becomes a complete lifestyle thing. So, and that's more to do with the fact that if you're taking it serious, which so many people are taking it serious. Like, I mean, when I first started competing CrossFit, like I started CrossFit in 2013 at CrossFit East Kilbride, and basically it was myself, maybe one other girl in the gym, and then the 2 boys that owned it. We were really the only ones at the start that were like, there's real local competitions. Everybody else was just doing it because it was a really cool way to train and they were getting great results. But we were like, let's compete. But now people do CrossFit for 10 minutes and they're signing up for scaled competition. People seem to love the competition side of it.
CrossFit has then breeded so many other competitions like High Rocks, and I think Wolverson, I can't remember the Wolverson version as well.
Is it that Athics or Ethics?
Something like that. They obviously breed what they term as functional fitness competitions, but they're very similar to CrossFit, maybe just not quite as technical.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean? Fit people that are doing these and fit people that are winning these and stuff. But like you say, it's less skillful, I would say. So it takes less time, like to for CrossFit to keep on top of your fitness and your strength and your skills. I mean, you're talking it's 2 hours a day anyway, 5 to 6 days a week, which for the young guys like in their early 20s with no responsibility, like still living at home, is quite easy to do. And quite often what you find is a lot of people that are doing CrossFit and taking it so serious are either like working in a gym or are PTs, so they seem to have like quite a good work-life balance. But if I think back to like when I first started CrossFit, I was like in my mid-30s, I had a job, like an admin type job, working quite long hours. I had young children who had their own clubs, so that was obviously my priority. Like I couldn't devote 15 hours a week to CrossFit. I just didn't have the time for it.
And we'll get to like your family situation and stuff, because that's important. It's important to realise that you can't reach where you can't get where you've reached easily. Do you know, it does come with some kind of sacrifice, and especially the woman who's 47 with a husband and 2 kids and responsibilities and stuff. You really need to prioritise and do your best to get CrossFit
I think, completely. It's a completely different... it's a completely different juggle for somebody.
But I bet in the gym at CrossFit East Kilbride, you can still go with the guys and girls that are PTs and zero responsibilities.
Yeah, that's because like a competitive arsehole, yes. I still want to try and beat them and stuff like that, and I still like trying to train at their level. I mean, I definitely think my recovery's not as good as theirs. Like, I mean, I even did a workout actually with my son, believe it or not. He's 19 and he's into CrossFit. Brilliant. So like for me, he was always into like football and stuff. And he's obviously seen me do CrossFit. And when I like went to the games, like he was doing CrossFit Kids type thing. Right. So for me now, like he's 19 now and he's a member of our gym and he's doing fantastic. And for me to be able to train with him, and I know how... This sounds so cheesy, but I know that like I have inspired him, and he's really proud of me. And as a mother, to know that your 19-year-old son thinks you're quite cool is actually quite cool. Exactly. But Ben and I did a workout last Saturday, and I couldn't walk for 2 days after it, and he was fine. And I like, jumping about. That's when it kind of comes back to home about my age. But I think for me, it is a hard juggle. But by the same token, I think I'm possibly in a more fortunate situation than some other women, people my age, and that I've only ever worked part-time since I've had the kids. So I'm fortunate that I had like that kind of second half of the week, particularly once the wee ones were older and at school, where I had a bit more time to myself. Yeah. So not everybody has that, and also I think I've got a really supportive family in the sense that my husband's really into his fitness. He's not into CrossFit or competing or anything like that, but he's always kind of been in and around the fitness industry. So
he understands your mindset. Totally gets it. So CrossFit East Kilbride, was that just something, obviously the venue that opened up, I mean, you just introduced to it, or
I wasn't.
Did you watch it beforehand in America?
I didn't really know. Do you know, I have told this story before, but there was a guy called Tino Marini, his name was. He was from East Kilbride, and he actually worked in like the Fitness First gym that I used to go to, and he'd gone to like San Diego or somewhere like that, California, for a holiday, and had discovered CrossFit. Now this was like way before CrossFit East Kilbride opened, and
he's a pioneer that brought it to Scotland.
And he came back and he was like a PT or a fitness instructor in Fitness First, but the way he trained obviously changed. And he used to always say to me, at that point I was teaching classes in that gym, and he used to say, you know, like, you would be quite good at the CrossFit. It's a bit of a like, it encompasses everything. I think you could be good at it. But I am ambitious and stuff, but if I'm enjoying something,
why change it?
It's not that I've got a fixed mindset, but I was like, well, I really like the way I train just now. I really like everything I'm doing just now. So I'm not really like, I don't like to explore different things. like all the time. So I was quite content with how my training was going and I was enjoying it. But he would always say, Ali, you would really like this CrossFit. And then CrossFit Glasgow opened and he'd said to me, you should go along. And Glasgow is probably like, from East Kilbride, like 20 minutes, 25 minutes. But I was like, I'm not going to drive 25 minutes for a workout. So I never ever joined. But then when East Kilbride opened, I think my husband actually we had like a spare rowing machine in the garage. So like he'd given it to the gym, as like just so that some kind of equipment. And the boys, Ali and Simon, had said, you can come down and try out CrossFit, and Derek was like, nah, it's not really for me. The wife might like it though. And I'm sure he'd really
worst thing he's ever done.
The worst thing he's ever done. And that was kind of how I got into it. I went down for my first class, and funnily enough, my first ever class, that wasn't really a class as such, was I think it was like back squats, and I was working with some girls, but I didn't do heavy back squats. And there wasn't a lot of weight in the bar, it was maybe like 50 kilograms in the bar, but the girl that I was working with she like kind of bailed out at the bottom. And I, from a body pump background, didn't think anything of it. I was looking quite strong, looks all right. I just like cleaned it up, and I remember Ali coming up to me and go, how did you get that bar up? I was like, just did the clean thing. And he's like, all right, you might be all right at this. And then we did, it was 7 minutes of burpees. It's like a CrossFit open workout. Right, okay. And I got beat by a girl and I was raging. I thought I'd done really well, and I remember like somebody saying, oh, well done, that was the second best score. And I'm like,
excuse me?
Best score? And then after that was it. Basically, the rest
and that was
history.
You hooked. So tell me about that. Did that give you a rock up the bum? Was that you?
I think for me it was like, there's a lot of really fit girls here. Whereas I think where I came from, I was always like the fittest by quite some. So didn't really have much competition. So yeah, that was maybe a factor in me wanting to join, because I do firmly believe that to get better at something, that I think anyone, well, I certainly need to, it's good to train with people who are better than you.
Of course.
And I think that's why Scotland has come up in like leaps and bounds lately in terms of the quality of CrossFit athlete, because success breeds success, doesn't it? And totally. I think that, I even remember back from my young years as a gymnast, like if somebody did really well in the club and made like the Scotland team, then it was almost as though the rest of that club would like level up a wee bit, and then before you know it, they had like 2 and 3 kind of people in the Scotland team. So I think the same obviously in most things. I think if like success does breed success, so obviously I had a bit of success. But for me, even before I went to the CrossFit Games, there was other people in the CrossFit world in Scotland who were doing things like making the regionals, it was at the time, which was like the kind of European stage. And at first you're like, that's amazing. But then eventually you're like, well, there's actually no reason why like I couldn't do that. So then I think if you're constantly like chasing someone or something, and then if somebody achieves something, it makes that goal a realistic goal for other people as well.
That's been proven throughout lifetime as far as records go, whether it be the fastest marathon or the 1 minute mile or whatever else, the 100 metres in under 10 seconds. So, you know, all these records seem undoable until they're done.
Somebody's done it.
And then everybody steps
all
up to the
sudden,
plate. And then all of a sudden it is, and it's crazy. And it must be, fair enough, you can put some of it down to the development of science and coaching techniques, but a lot of it must be mentally, that if someone sees someone else doing it, they thought, fuck, I didn't know that was achievable.
I think huge amount of it is mental.
And you're obviously now playing a part in that as far as inspiring other people.
I hope so. I think like when I was first starting competing, like I trained with Ali and Simon, so they were like boys who were like 10 years younger than me and like really fit, been doing CrossFit for a bit and were fit. So I never won against them, but I was always like trying to keep up with them and chase them. And then by that very nature, I was improving all the time, probably at a faster rate than other people that weren't training with people that were better than them. So I do think that like having somebody like to kind of aim for helps. And like you say, like obviously because I've had a bit of success, I dare say before I won the CrossFit Games for my age group that most people that do CrossFit in Scotland would be like, well, that's never going to happen to anybody from Scotland. And then it's, as you say, I've done it, so I wouldn't be surprised that like there's a young girl, Jen, came through, she's only like 22, 23 and she made like the semi-final stages of like the elites last year. So it's like she probably thinks now like, oh yeah, why not? Like, and it is that mindset of, like, for me personally, when I think about my mindset going into the games in 2018 compared to 2021, like in 2021, like one bad workout wasn't going to dip my mindset and dip my kind of belief in myself. I was very much like just one at a time, focused and just really positive about anything that came up in front of me. I wasn't like that in 2018, and I think probably that's kind of that was more me growing as a person in terms of like believing in my ability a bit more and stuff like that, my confidence levels. And then when, as you say, coming second, like that year in 2021, I was hoping deep down for a podium, but like a top, like publicly I would have said, let's top 5 would be nice.
But secretly in your
but
head,
in me, I was like, I really want a medal. But getting that second place, then I was like, wow, I want to win it now. Whereas in 2018, if you'd said to me, you're going to be going into the games again in whatever
4 years' time,
5 years' time, and you're going to be going in with the goal of winning, I would have laughed in your face. But I
think, do you think that's more because of your personality, that you don't want that kind of spotlight and attention and maybe external pressure put on you?
Maybe
you're fine telling yourself that, but you're not fine if other people tell
you. I think so.
And is that still the case? I mean, we'll talk about your injury and why you didn't compete this year, but next year, if you got it in your head that you want to podium again?
We'll see. I'm not going to say it loud.
Nearly tricked you there.
I think it's probably me as a person. Like, I definitely, it's nice to get like the accolation or whatever the word is, when people like, it was lovely when I came back and people were really proud, and it was actually quite weird for me because I don't like, probably because I'm a bit older, it'd be different if I was younger, but I don't see myself as this like serious athlete. I literally do something I love, and I do it with commitment, and I like, but anything that I do, if I set my mind to something, I will give it everything. So that's not, and initially that wasn't my mindset to try and win. It wasn't like I had this, right, I'm going to give this everything, I'm going to be really disciplined, and I'm going to dial in my nutrition and follow my program and do my mobility. It wasn't like that. It was just like, I really enjoy this style of training.
Just a natural progression.
You were really just enjoying it.
You were getting fitter, you were getting stronger. Obviously then your nutrition, all that kind of falls into place if you're seeing improvements, but it was never your aim to be crowned the fittest.
No, so I always find it quite funny when like people that do CrossFit in Scotland are like, oh my god, you won the games, and it's like, and I'm like, literally, I'm just Ali for East Kilbride. I do the classes mostly. So yeah, I do find that quite funny.
It must have been
but
amazing.
Do you know what I think it is though? I think as a person, like, I don't really get impressed by people.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So like, I was never really. I remember my sister being really like pop bands when she was younger. And I was like, if I saw like a footballer in the street, like I wouldn't even. I would.
Just another person.
Just another person. So I don't think even a Hollywood star, I genuinely, I wouldn't be one of these people that be like, oh my god, I saw Kim Kardashian. Like, I'm not really impressed by other people. I'm like, oh, that's cool.
I just impress myself.
So I kind of feel as though that's me. Like, I don't know why people would be impressed by me. I'm just living my life, doing my thing, and I mean, really enjoying what I'm doing. And as I get older, like I was injured this year. As I get older, I'm maybe being a little bit more mindful about, like, CrossFit's superb, but it's pretty hard on the body. So I think maybe being injured and having a period of like bodybuilding and rehab, it was quite nice to like not wake up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck every day. And I was like, oh, it's maybe quite nice for somebody. It was
maybe a blessing in disguise, just the recovery that you kind of needed. That you needed. I'm sure you'll bounce back. You'll bounce back next year. Although you want to admit it. No, that's fine. So obviously, you get a lot of positive comments and accolades and attention from your gym and people that would just recognise you, obviously, that are involved in that. And I cannot actually imagine the elation standing with the saltire draped over your shoulders. I've seen the pictures and the videos, and I was like, I was filling up because quite patriotic in that as well. And I think when you are the only Scottish person ever to qualify for this CrossFit Games, so you're the only one there with a saltire, basically.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I have
and
to
then
admit,
to take
see
first
when I won it
prize,
and I had the saltire and I was like, I'm taking this up onto the podium. But I was like, this is so random, like a Scottish person. Obviously, the Masters isn't as like exciting and as serious as the elites, but it's still...
It's all relative, though,
and a lot
Ali,
of the
totally
Masters,
is.
it's mostly Americans, because
Yeah, I can
obviously a lot of
imagine.
the Masters, because it's been in America for a long time,
Started younger.
they're more skilled at it,
Yeah.
they're more conditioned at CrossFit. So most winners in the master categories tend to come from America. So yeah, it was a very cool moment, I have to admit.
So do you ever get negative comments as a lady in her late 40s, if you want to say, a wife and a family too? Do you ever get any negative comments about devoting the amount of time you do to your craft than maybe what a man would, or
Yeah.
definitely that you should, because you shouldn't get any negative comments?
I have,
but
though.
tell me about them, because I'm keen. Because I want to, like, I've got a 14-year-old daughter, right? So I'm always on the lookout for male and female role models, and I've got a 9-year-old son as well. And you could be a role model for a son as well as a daughter. And I think it's amazing what you've done. Like, genuinely think it's amazing. But I know that there's always people out there that won't see that side of it. They won't see you as a role model. They'll see you as a bad wife or mother because you're not at home doing the stereotypical, traditional, womanly things. You're at the gym, a well-built girl, strong as an ox, really, really fit, training with guys 10 years younger than you. Like, tell me about that. Tell me what it is and how it actually affects you, or if it affects you.
It doesn't affect me at all.
Do you think it fuels your fire, or do you just?
It doesn't fuel my fire. It doesn't make me feel bad about myself. It doesn't make me want to change any aspects of how I live my life or what I do. I genuinely think that confidence is a really deep-rooted thing, and I am very comfortable with the fact that I'm a brilliant mother and probably not such a good wife in the latter years, but I'm a good wife, and I am I'm training hard. I will go to the classes with other people in my gym, and I want to help them as well. I'm very comfortable with what I am, but when I did win the games, it was, I can't even remember the social media sites, like Glasgow Live or something. I think notoriously it's quite, I mean, I don't really follow much on Facebook or anything, but I think notoriously it's known for people always having a negative thing to say. And as horrible as it is, Scottish people do get the reputation, like they're quite like self-depreciating, and they also get the reputation of not really like cheering for somebody else. It's always finding negatives and stuff. But when Glasgow Live ran the story about me, I had so many positive messages. Like, I was like blown away. And to be honest, whether it's me trying to massage my own ego or not, but I literally did scroll down at them all. But I also got a fair amount of negative. But like you say, it was things like, oh, I just feel sorry for her kids, like how much have they missed out as she has to devote all this time to her own training. But I remember, it was quite funny. Like, I remember saying, I actually found it quite funny, if I'm being totally honest.
Because you know how sad
because I'm like,
their
it's
lives
not true, but it's actually quite funny. And I remember showing my son, Ben, and he's a bit like me. He's like, oh, I'm going to comment under the post and say, you're right, I've not had my dinner made for me for 3 months now. Like, just making a joke of it. But, and there was also like the people that, you said I am quite a muscular girl, but if you were to see my sister, who's like an ex-acrobat, she's like the carbon copy of me. Like, this is just the way I'm built. Like, and if you were to speak to my coach about my nutrition, he would tell you that it's an absolute shit show.
No way.
So I barely even hit my protein targets. I take no supplements.
Right, okay.
Well, I did take no supplements. I'm currently taking collagen because I believe it's good for older age and joints and stuff. And then I had all these like men mostly like, I put it this way, I remember one particular comment. It was 2 girls had commented, and one had tagged her friend saying, look at this girl, isn't she amazing? She's the same age as us. Like, let's get back into the gym. Like, it's almost as though like I'd motivated them to get back into the gym. And then her friends like that, yes, let's hit the gym on Monday and we'll be back on the salads, right? And then a man had posted underneath, ladies, I think this one's on more than the salads. And I was just like, come on. I'm like, you're right. I eat a lot of Haribos as well. So there is negative, but I honestly, it didn't make me feel bad about myself. I'm just like, each to their own. Like, if that's what makes you happy. But it did make me wonder about the younger generation.
I worry for that. I definitely worry for that, because social media, people our age, it's not something that's that important in our lives.
No.
But because we didn't grow up with it, hardly even grew up with mobile phones.
Yep.
But like, for the ages of your kids and my kids, it's just ingrained part of life. I mean, they're at school on their phones, learning, doing their schoolwork on their phones and iPads and whatever else, which is still crazy. But I think the social media has...
What's the old saying? Comparison is a thief of joy.
Yeah,
it's
of course
like,
it is, right?
So, like, I'm always about, like, find something that you love, like you love. And I think for me, like, if I love something, see if I was rubbish at it, I probably wouldn't do it, because I think everybody can be famous for something. Everybody can excel in something. And obviously I've done really well in CrossFit, but probably see if I'd gone into that first class and came last in the burpees, I maybe wouldn't have stuck it out. So I think it's like, if you find something that you enjoy and are quite good at, then you have to kind of run with that confidence, because I think confidence is something that's really deep inside. And I think with social media now, like I say it myself with a lot, I mean, everybody looks as though they are a CrossFit or functional fitness superstar, and you have these people like that. It's like constant content. I mean, it's even in my gym. You're in a class and it's normally the early 20-year-olds, and they've all got their tripods and their phones filming the workouts. And I think it's good, as you say, it can be good for like documenting a fitness journey. It can also be good for inspiring other people. I also quite enjoy seeing if people like have PB'd and stuff like that.
Course,
like kind of quite momentous.
Informative reasons,
definitely. Do I want to see everybody's workout every day?
No.
Not interested. And I also think that can have quite a detrimental effect on other people who are watching that all the time. And I put a story up a few days ago, and I was absolutely rubbish at it, and I actually had 2 separate people send me a private message, like with a paragraph about thanking me for putting this up, because it's so easy to see people crushing workouts every day, and it just makes them feel rubbish about themselves. And I just feel that it's so difficult now to find the difference between reality and performance.
Oh, definitely. I think now, and I'll obviously come into CrossFit as well. Most people that post stuff, unless it is for like tracking progress or their journey, it's mostly for attention. It is. And everybody likes a bit of attention now and again. There's nobody that doesn't, but it's to make them feel better about themselves. It's to see who's watching their stories or liking their comments or their pictures and whatever else. And you're only seeing their best bits. Do you know, they might crush that workout, but I doubt that the bit that they've filmed on is the full workout. It'll be the highlight of whatever they're doing.
It definitely is, and
I think from a competitive point of view, it's not accurate at all.
No, it's not. I think also though, like resilience. I think, and this I'll probably get absolutely killed by all the younger generation, but I think that older generation are more resilient, because I feel now things are too easy for people. It's like it's instant. Like you spoke earlier, like. I remember even like when I started learning some skills, like you talked about what's first, is it like obviously science moves on and stuff like that, and you kind of have a better understanding about techniques, but like for me, like for example, a bar muscle up, when I first started learning a bar muscle up, there wasn't really so much on Instagram, wasn't really that big at the time, and it was pretty much my coaches trying to figure it out, like technique, what the best, like okay, you've got the fundamental strength for it, let's how we do it. We had these terrible like we kind of clothy grips that we would put on our hands to stop them from tearing the bar, and it took me probably about 1.5 years to get a bar muscle up, and probably another year to get good at them. And then now though, everybody's getting them like this, and it's not because these people are like more talented, but it's because like you go into Instagram and you can have a million tutorials of all the different kind of techniques you can adopt, about the strength programs that you need to get the strength to do the movement. You have these unbelievable grips that basically are like stuck to the bar. So there's lots of things that have moved on. So I feel as though all the young ones now, this is just me talking about CrossFit, but I think you could say it about anything. Everything's instant.
It definitely is. I think that, obviously the theme of the podcast is resilience, and it's more focused on people like yourself who've got stories that have shown resilience through their years to get where they have came now, and some of the previous guests have their resilience has been forced upon them through events that out with their control, whereas obviously you've set yourself this goal of becoming 2022's fittest women in the earth.
But I do think resilience is something, I think life experiences.
Oh, of course.
Resilience. I'm not sure if you're necessarily born a resilient person.
No, definitely
and I
not.
say that as So my youngest son's got some special needs and a significant special needs.
Right.
So he's 15, but we always kind of knew something wasn't quite right with him, but nobody could ever quite. He was always a wee complex character, and nobody could ever get to the bottom of what it was. Finally, when he was, so it was 2018, so what age would have been? He would have been 10. He was diagnosed with a very rare mutation on one of his genes on the X chromosome. So then I had to get, and it only actually presented in boys because boys are X and Y.
Right, okay.
So if a girl had this mutation, then it would just switch off the faulty chromosome basically, not use it. So I had to then go through all these DNA tests to see if I had the faulty gene. We kind of thought probably I didn't, because obviously my oldest son had no issues. So it turns out Alfie has got this genetic mutation, and it was just a freak mutation on conception. So it's just one of these things. But what comes with his syndrome, if you like, is that he can't read, can't write, doesn't really understand the concept of numbers and stuff like that, struggles to form words. So like he can speak a little bit, but nothing. He can't speak properly. He will never be able to speak properly.
Right, okay.
And life has been an absolute challenge for him from the minute he was born. Basically, everything has been difficult for him. And anybody that meets Alfie will be like, he's the most resilient little kid ever.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm like, that's not because he was born like that. He's basically had these challenges from birth, and he's had to find ways to overcome them. He's a very, very sociable wee boy. He can't speak, so he has to find ways
to communicate
and
himself.
It's not always successful initially, so then he has to find other ways, and that builds resilience. So yes,
totally.
The most resilient person I know on this planet is my Alfie, but that's because of his situation. I think that's true of a lot of people who have undergone like mental trauma, physical trauma, or have got a disability, that life's not as easy. And as a mother of somebody like that, I've gone through the whole kind of roller coaster of emotions, like of being like desperate for a cure to accepting of it, but really gutted, because obviously life for Alfie's so much harder, and who knows what the kind of long term, like he's probably going to be with me forever type thing, to where I am now, and that he is the most happiest, content, fun loving, funny person, that there's almost a part of me, it's like, kind of wouldn't change him if somebody's like, there's a magic pill. I don't know if I would take it, because his personality as a result of his difficulties is bigger probably than it ordinarily would have been.
My guest last week, Ben Rollings, Paralympian world record holder, he openly stood and said, I'm disabled, I can't walk very briefly. And he was like, I would rather be disabled than an able-bodied person, because of what I've had to face and where I've achieved so much more as a disabled person than what I ever would, I think, if he was able-bodied. And I think that there is maybe it's just because we're getting older now, but I agree with you that the younger generation, everything is so instant. Do you know that it's so easy to get things that the younger generation see as important. There's instant gratification in everything. And a lot of people struggle when times get tough. They don't know how to deal with it, because it doesn't happen often enough. And when times get tough, that's good. That is good, because you learn from it. Everybody fails and fails and fails and fails. And it's how you then bounce back from that. And I think that the younger generation, and maybe even like people up to our age, because everything's so accessible, they're not exposed to that often enough. They're not exposed to failure, and when it comes, it's like self-destruct. They don't know how
easy. I also think that like what your surroundings as well. Like I'm really proud of the person my oldest son is. He's an amazing human, but I know that having Alfie as a younger brother has helped shape.
Oh, of course.
Like how compassionate he is, how patient he is as a person. So, like, I think everybody's lives pans out differently and stuff like that.
Do you think that CrossFit and gym and exercise for you, do you think that is a way of you de-stressing from releasing? Not that you feel, and I don't mean to say that you feel sorry or sad because Alfie's the way he is. You've just said that like you wouldn't have him any other way. But on touching on things that you've touched on about his lack of communication, and he'll probably be with you, it'd be fair to say that you'd be concerned what his future holds for him, how his life looks for him.
I don't know if I used CrossFit as like a really, I really just loved it, and it's not as if I'm like, oh, this is stressful with Alfie, I need a couple hours at the gym. It's not like that. I mean, Alfie's quite a big feature in CrossFit School Bride because he's literally been there his whole life.
Does he go? Right, okay.
Well, when I was been training for the games, like I remember there was one summer where like the poor wee soul was sat in a deck chair with an iPad for like 2.5 hours at a time. Terrible mum, sorry. Get my rolling sausage every day.
It's the summer, do you want to go on holiday or you just want to bring your deck chair in?
I was training for the games, and at that point my oldest boy wasn't old enough to kind of watch him. He was maybe 10, 11 or whatever, and I had to train, and my husband works away a lot, so I was like, he's coming with me, and he used to sit, they'd have the shutter up as nice, and he'd just sit. He was quite happy, he was happy as Larry,
of course.
But he's kind of always been around.
But there's you there, right? Like there's you there training to be crowned the fittest woman in your age bracket in the world, and your son's there. You hear it all the time, right? Like people, I would die for my children, and 99.9% of people would, but would they live for them as well?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And children don't need you to die for them. They need you to live for them. They need them to witness you in the arena with your blood, sweat and tears, failing and trying and getting up and getting better and better and better. I think that a lot of parents don't see the importance in becoming a role model for their kids. They see the importance in being a good parent and teaching them what's right and wrong. But I think you've taken that to a whole other level for both your kids, that the fact that they've seen the sacrifice and the determination and the amount of work that you've had to put in to achieve what you've achieved.
Yeah, I think it's important for children to see that, and like I make the joke about the deck chair and iPad story, and it's not a joke, it's actually true. But then I might leave the gym and then I would be doing stuff with Alfie, we'd be going to the beach, we'd be going to the golf range, we'd be doing different stuff like that. So it's not as if like I was wanting him to do that for me and being a terrible mother. Like I was just like, I need to fit it all in. He's going to be fine doing it. So I think sometimes, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I do think more so women kind of give up a wee bit of who they are for their children.
Totally.
And I think for me to get the success that I have had, I had to also prioritise myself. Like obviously my kids will always be my number one priority. Like that's a total given, but I don't think you necessarily have to give up as you get older, give up your dreams and your passion and who you are. I think you're able to do it all.
Yeah, totally. But I think out there, some people view that as selfish.
Yeah,
and they're probably, and that's certainly not me saying that. I totally agree with you. But I think that you need to be selfish because although you're a parent, you've still got your own life. You need to make yourself happy. You need to be happy for your kids to get the best of you.
Of you, absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? So if that means that you're going to the gym for 10 hours a week, then you go to the gym for 10 hours a week, you're going to be a much better person, a much better mother and parent. Yeah. If you're allowed to do that.
Oh, I'm definitely far easier to live with. I've been to the gym, that's for sure.
And do you see now that you are obviously a great ambassador for CrossFit in the UK and Scotland, and especially at CrossFit East Kilbride? Do you see more, even just lifestyle people joining CrossFit?
Oh, absolutely.
Do you see that more, but more older women as well, or men and women?
That's the thing about a CrossFit gym. It is a very, very mixed demographic, isn't it? I would say that, like I said at the start of our chat, like definitely there's more people taking it a lot more serious now. There's no doubt about that. Like 20 years ago, folk weren't as serious about exercising as they seem to be now. But and I think that I've possibly played a part in like kind of inspiring people to do CrossFit, but to be perfectly honest, a lot of people my age aren't really that interested. Not that they don't have goals and don't have ambition, they're just not particularly interested in competitive fitness. But I do think that it has potentially spurred people on to try things that they maybe like age isn't a barrier, let's just say.
No, I think you've proved that. And am I right in saying that in the recent past that if you're entering a UK-wide competition, you don't enter as a master?
I still don't, but I've getting to the stage where
well, you might
I'm
need
getting
to.
myself on it. Yeah, I'm actually doing, there's a big competition in a couple of weeks called Proving Grounds. I don't know whether you've seen it. So there's obviously, it's a same-sex pairs competition, and there's obviously a masters category. I think that was for anyone over like 35, obviously being 47. But I'm actually doing it with a girl, Kelly Friel. So Kelly's actually, she's probably the best master ever to come out of the UK. She's won the games 3 times and came second twice. She's a ridiculously good athlete, a really lovely person as well. But she lives in Southampton. But we've met a few times at the games, and she's always said, it'd be really cool to do a competition together. So she's coming up and we're doing Proving Grounds, but we're doing it in the RX category. So we're doing it against all the young ones, and we'd kind of worked out that the girls that are favourite to win, both their ages added together, is still younger than me.
They're literally old enough to be you are old enough to be here. But you've won a few competitions. I've done pretty well, like kind of locally, not so much recently, but like I won the French Throwdown, the European Championships, Rainhill Trials Rocket category, and it was quite good people that were in that. So yeah, I have done really well, and I've always tried to not let age kind of be like a factor, because I get it when you're like a totally elite athlete, right? So I could never like compete against the elite athletes at the CrossFit Games, but I could probably compete against like really good younger athletes and kind of more kind of UK, European. But the level now for the elite level is just getting higher and higher and higher, because it's becoming more and more serious for so many people. So like now there'll be a lot of sponsored full-time athletes.
People are training like full-time athletes, and people are sponsored.
And you just can't, if you can't devote the time and you
I would love to. I mean, if I was 25 years younger, I would be one of those people. I would be throwing everything at it, but you just got to kind of work with where you're at. And
of course. So this year you didn't compete because you injured yourself.
So I fully ruptured the long head of the biceps tendon just 10 days before semi-finals.
Was it as painful as it sounds?
No. I actually, my sister, who's also my physio, had said that if I'd partially ruptured it, potentially, because I am terrible with pain, so trust me, this was not me being brave. A partial rupture may have been sore, but literally I just was doing cleans with barbell and felt a pop, like ping, almost heard it and knew instantly that something wasn't right. And then went to see a physio, and it was a full rupture. I went for a scan and stuff, so I kind of put my hopes of podium in again this year at the games. So I did try, like, so basically, the injury, if you don't get operated on, is like 8 to 12 weeks recovery.
Right, okay.
But I was a bit in denial, and I do tend to recover quite quickly from things. So I did do the first workout of the semi-finals weekend, and didn't do particularly well. Obviously, it was like heavy barbell, couldn't do it. Did okay in the first bit, and then I was like, no, I can't do this. So, but I feel as though making that attempt put me back again even more. So I think I did even more damage, to be honest. But
and is it surgery or is it physio?
No, it's just I would have had to get the surgery within the first kind of 2 weeks, and I opted against it. And like I say, I did try and go back too quickly and probably set myself back even further. But I am definitely the type of person, unfortunately, it's not one of my better traits, but I kind of have to find out the hard way. So despite physio saying, no, you shouldn't be doing this, my coach saying, no, you should be doing this,
Ali says, I'm doing it.
Let me check.
At 47 you get to tell you get to make up your own mind.
But needless to say, they were all right. So it's been quite a long recovery for me. So that was kind of middle of April I did that. So we're talking like 6 months ago. I am competing in Proving Grounds in 2 weeks. But I'm probably not quite where I need to be for that.
How's that going down with your physio and coaches?
Fine. They're fine. They're happy for me to be doing that. I mean, I am, like, I think it's all scarred down and stuff like that now. So it's more like
more the rehab now.
Rehabbing. I have to make sure, like, I'm doing all the exercises to get everything firing properly. And I suppose there's a wee bit in my head that I'm still not quite as confident with heavier stuff than maybe I was before. But every week I feel like I'm getting a little bit stronger, a little bit better, and my confidence in terms of heavier weights and stuff is coming back and getting better all the time. So I do think that I think I'll be able to regain close to where I was strength numbers. I mean, at my age, I'm not ever going to be putting 20 kilograms on a clean and jerk. We're down to like half kilogram PBs and 1 kilogram PBs. But
so you're still getting stronger?
I'm still getting stronger. Like
I don't know at what age, and obviously it'll vary for certain people. And the Masters goes on till in the 60s, is it?
Well, there's an over 65s category.
It's over 65s.
Which is phenomenal.
I can imagine that'd be amazing to watch. But there must come a time where no matter how hard you train and how well your nutrition and your recovery is, that you will start to see a steady decline. But that's a long way away now.
Well, it probably shouldn't be at my age, but I'm not seeing it yet.
You're doing your best to hold it.
Well, I just started taking collagen, so...
There you go. You're one and only.
Yeah, I'm definitely not noticing it yet, but yeah, I think at my age, it's unlikely I'm going to ever improve on the numbers that I had before in terms of lifts, but I'm doing my best to kind of keep it as high as possible for as long as possible. And I think... These days, I think with so many more women, like obviously as you start heading into perimenopause and menopause age and stuff like that, whatever hormone levels drop, and it's harder to kind of hold on to like lean muscle mass and stuff like that. But I think nowadays, with people lifting so much and there's so much education and information out there, there's lots of things you can do to kind of not combat it as such, but definitely... give yourself the best shot.
Put the brakes on your kind of age taking over, definitely. So we'll bring the podcast to a conclusion now, but for women and men out there, that you obviously started, although you were sporty, and from what you said, you didn't particularly excel to an extent in previous sports. You were always a good all-rounder until you found CrossFit. You only got into CrossFit at 37, 38. So there's hope for people out there that necessarily don't want to reach to your level, but there's plenty of people out there that are my age, I'm 38, that don't want to try something new because they think they're too old. Even if they do come from a relatively fit background. To be honest, if you invited me to go to CrossFit East Kilbride, I would shit myself. I wouldn't know what to do. I would be worried what people think. I'd be worried about not being good enough. And obviously I wouldn't be good enough because I'd be starting from the scratch. But what would you say to people out there that want to try something new, fitness-wise, and the benefits that it can have?
I think I alluded at the start of the podcast how I'm not a huge risk taker in terms of trying something new. I kind of was almost pushed into CrossFit, and it's the best thing I ever did. So I suppose it's more about like taking a risk, going for it, like being worried about it and being like, oh, I don't know if I want to try something new, but why not? Like, I don't think that... I would like to hope that I make people realise that just because you're 20 years older than somebody else doesn't mean to say you can't still go after something and have goals and dreams. And like, obviously me winning the games at age 46, whatever I was like, that was probably one of the best moments of my life.
Yeah, definitely.
And there's very few people that can say from like an athletic point of view that the peak of their career would come at 46. So I think you have to kind of take a challenge, take the plunge. I also think that a lot of people need to leave their egos at the door. So like, I do know people who are reluctant to start CrossFit because yes, there is a lot to it, but you have your specialists. So you'll have a lot of people in the gym who think they're super duper fit, and it's almost like the thought of going into CrossFit and perhaps not being as super duper fit as they thought they were.
Pretty much like you when you got beat by that girl at the first time.
Exactly. So you need to kind of almost like check your ego at the door and just be prepared to learn. But I think yes, I always had a level of natural ability kind of from an athletic point of view, but I've seen people in my gym, one of my close friends actually, who was the least athletic person that you'll ever meet, and still if I do something with her like jumping a fence, I'm like, how on earth are you good at CrossFit? Because she's so like uncoordinated and doesn't seem athletic. But the progress this girl's made, actually her fitness journey, I feel like is far more impressive than mine.
Because she started from
if you see like the kind of progress she's made.
I think people are always afraid to take that first step because all they're seeing is the next 10 steps are negative. Do you know, they're always seeing that I'm not going to be good enough, or people are going to be like, nobody cares. No. Nobody actually cares because everybody's
expression, David. Nobody cares. No. And I feel as though every day, a lot of folk now with the social media thing thinks that people care, but actually nobody cares.
No, they're all
it.
Everybody's too obsessed with their own people. Or probably they're too worried about what other people are thinking about them for them to actually be worried about.
I think CrossFit as well is a bit of, this is so cheesy, it's a bit of a journey. Like, you know what they say, like, enjoy the process. I definitely think that it's really humbling at times, because you can think, oh, I should be able to do that, and then you're like, how the heck can I do it? But if you have a good CrossFit gym, and I can't speak highly enough about my coaches, because obviously look where I've got to, but I feel if you have good coaches, then it is a process, and it's quite an enjoyable process. So you just have to kind of, as I say, check your ego and just appreciate that you're going to be learning new stuff. You might be terrible at new stuff initially, but there's a chance that you can end up doing something that you never actually thought you would be able to do.
Definitely. Perfect. Ali, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.